Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Money Matters. What are we talking about this week? We're talking about PropCo, OpCo. What on earth is that and why should you be interested? Well, it's the number one way in which large property portfolios and businesses operate. It's a way to make millions and millions of pounds. But for the next 15-20 minutes, if you want to understand how to truly scale a business, you can't do it unless you know about OpCo, PropCo. And in case you're thinking, well, that sounds financial to me, Paul, my accountant will sort that out. Accountants will answer the questions that you ask. Now, if you don't even know the right question to ask, how can your accountant possibly give you the right answer? And if your accountant is not able to understand what you're asking, they're going to end up guessing. So let me give you an example. We've been working with one of our very good friends now for about 6 months, a guy called Jonathan. One tax break, capital allowances. He knew about it. His accountant wasn't so sure, so they didn't do it. 6 months in, he's had all his capital allowance surveys done, and he's getting a £750,000 tax break. So he was aware of it, but didn't know the right question to ask to get the accountant to do it. So here was the right question to ask. If I present you with a capital allowance survey, can you process it for me? Yes, says the accountant. Can you do the capital allowances for me? No, says the accountant. You need a specialist capital allowance surveyor, but if you don't even know that that's the question you need to ask, you're going to be £750,000 light versus if you do. That's just a little tiny example. So where am I going now? I'm going to OpCo, PropCo. So let's give you the basics. And forgive me for turning my back on you, but I need to turn around to right. So, PropCo, OpCo. So the PropCo is just shorthand for property company, and the OpCo is just shorthand for operating company. So this one owns it, owns the property. This one operates the property. So how could this work? Well, for instance, your PropCo could be, let's say your property owning entity is your pension. So your PropCo could be a SIP. It could be a SAS. So that's self-invested personal pension, that's small self-administered scheme. That's for one person, that's for up to 11 people. I'm going to give you a practical example of how we've used this for many years. So years ago, I had a SIP, Paul, and then Aniko had a SIP. Got a SIP each. What did our two SIPs do? Well, Aniko bought 40% and I bought 60% in our respective SIPs of an office. So the PropCo, in this particular example, was two SIPs. So it wasn't strictly a PropCo, it was two PropCos acting together. Now, let me give you the purchase price on this. So it wasn't expensive, it was cheap. It was actually £38,000. Between us, we spent another 15k turning it into a nice office. That's 53k. And this was all paid for by our two pension funds. But a pension fund, it can own an office. It's not going to rent an office because why would it rent it? It doesn't have any staff. So what we did is we had Touchstone. So Touchstone is our training company. So we've got various companies. But this one was Touchstone Scotland. So Touchstone Scotland needed an office because it had 6 staff. So it's me Anico's sister, various staff. We needed an office. So Touchstone Scotland rented this office for £6,000 a year. But Touchstone didn't own it, the pension fund owned it. So between the pension fund and the operating company, we had to have a lease. Well, hang on, Paul. You've now got a lease with yourself. That's not allowed. It is actually. Because this is a pension fund. This is an operating company that owns, it runs events and it does training and it's got staff and stuff. So that means that £6,000 a year goes back over there. But here's the thing, if you do it this way, because that's a rent that's getting paid to a pension fund, that is 100% tax-free. So all of that money goes back into that pension fund. And I want to give you some more examples as well. But the first simple example I want to give you is why OpCo/PropCo is a good idea and can be very tax beneficial. Here is your first example, where it's actually a pension fund, or two pension funds that are the PropCo. Then the OpCo is a training company. How do you set the value of the rent? Well, it's got to be a reasonable market rent. This is 50 odd thousand pounds, that's £6,000. If that was 60 and that was 6, that would be 10%, wouldn't it? So what is this? This is about 12.5, roughly. And that's how commercial valuations work. They work on a yield percentage. It's really important that you understand that and why it's important. But one of the main reasons I shared that, I wanted to give you an explanation of how OpCo/PropCo works. But anybody that's watching this, that's got a requirement for an office, it doesn't matter if it's a dental surgery or a builder's yard. If you don't own it, you're going to be paying rent to someone, aren't you? So would you like to have that rent come to you, tax-free, into your own pension fund? It doesn't have to be into your own pension fund. You can do it outside your pension fund. But I hope that's the first useful instalment on why OpCo/PropCo is so important. So I'm going to go up the pay grades a little bit now, and I'm going to show you the next level. Okay, so we're all cleaned up and we're back and we're ready for example number 2. Going up the pay grades a bit. So, something I've just done recently, I've just moved to Doncaster. Big deal, why is that relevant? Okay, here is why it's relevant. My house in Scotland, it's called Dunera, so we normally call it Dunera, but you won't know what Dunera is, it's the name of my house. We owned it in our personal names. Now I want to give you the simple version. It's actually a little bit more complex than this, but I want to give you the simple version. What we did with the house is we sold it from personal names to an LLP, to a limited liability partnership. Actually, it's Touchstone again, but this time it's the main Touchstone company. It's the UK-wide one, not the Scotland one. Why did we do that? Well, we want Touchstone and many of our companies to have assets. Touchstone wants to use it because, to give you a feel for it, it's an 8-bedroom house. It's a big house. It's over 5,000 square feet. Sits in an acre, looks directly out onto the sea. It's nice. As well as having 8 bedrooms, it's got big reception rooms that you can use for meetings and conferences and training. As well as that, it's got like a snooker room, it's got a big dining room, so it's a big house. So you can easily use it for corporate type training events. 8 people, 8 bedrooms, so I guess you could have 16 people stay in because they're all double bedrooms. So what does Touchstone want to use it for? Well, Touchstone wants to use it for training and retreats. Why does it make sense for Touchstone to buy a training centre for training and retreats? Well, even though we've got this 7,000 square foot office here in Doncaster, last year we still spent more than £150,000 hiring like big villas in Italy or Monaco or Dubai to take people to go and do training. So if we know we're spending, if I made it simple, if it was more than 150, but I'm going to pretend it was 144, because if I divide 144 by 12, that's 12 grand a month. Is that making sense? So if I didn't have this in my training company, what I would be spending would be, I'm going to say 12k a month on villas, you know, like big posh houses where you take delegates to do training and stuff. But because I've now got a big training centre in Scotland that's nice, that I can take people to on kind of top end retreat type experiences, then obviously Touchstone is going to save £12,000 a month. Now, the house is getting sold from me personally to Touchstone. I told you I'm going up the pay scale. That's getting sold for 1.3 million. Now the mortgage that we've got in place, it's a 20-year repayment mortgage with Barclays. The mortgage, round numbers, it's not exactly, it's a few pennies different, but the mortgage in the training company is £6,000. So straight away, even though I've sold it for 1.3 million, and where does that 1.3 million go? That 1.3 million goes to Paul and Anniko's personal bank account. Why? Because I've just sold my house. How much tax do I have to pay on that? None. Why? Because I've just sold my main personal residence. So there's never any capital gains tax on your PPR, on your principal primary residence. We've lived there. It's not a fiddle or a con. That's why I'm putting it on the internet for thousands of people to see. So that means we've got 1.3 million tax-free. Okay, we've still got a mortgage on it. The mortgage on it is 500,000. So that means the other 800,000 after we've paid off the mortgage is ours in our personal name. And the very fact that I can relocate some of my more expensive training experiences and retreats there means on a monthly basis, Touchstone is now going to be £6,000 better off. So I've got 800,000 tax-free. I've got £6,000 a month more because I was paying 12, but now the mortgage is only 6. And I don't even use it all the time. Why not? Because I'm not doing 365 days a year worth of retreats. So I've also got a lease in place. So it owns it, it uses it when it wants to. But I've done a lease with my SA company, with my serviced accommodation company. My serviced accommodation company that operates it, so my, in this case, SA OpCo, can run it when I'm not using it as a training centre. The comparables we've done and the bookings that we're beginning to get in, because we've just done this. So as a serviced apartment, it's going out for £12,000. £12,000. That, my friends, is per week. Now, how do I value that? Well, within reason, I can put whatever lease amount of money I want there. Because if this company's making £12,000 a week, can I put a lease between here and here for what? 5 grand a month? 10 grand a month? 15 grand a month? I can put whatever I think is commercially reasonable. And then based on my serviced accommodation company yield, that's the value of the lease. So I could release yet more money. The fact that my house is now, because that was residential, it's now commercial. What does that mean? It means on top of everything else, I now qualify for capital allowances. How much capital allowances do I qualify on a £1.3 million property? Answer, around about £600,000. So on top of everything else, My PropCo, because of the way they've got it structured, can get another £600,000 tax-free on top of that. So the next £600,000 that my training company makes as profit, oh, this is beginning to make sense, Paul. So you've put an asset that gets capital allowances into your training company so your training company doesn't have to pay tax. Yes, I have. That wasn't an accident. So this is a bit of a bigger one. And I could give you bigger and bigger and bigger ones. But we're already 800,000, 600,000, £6,000 a week, £12,000 a week. We're already comfortably into the millions. And if you don't understand how this OpCo-PropCo works, you're never going to make that leap. Now the good news is, it's not hard. Now in this edition of Money Matters, what I've tried to do is give you enough information so that whether you're talking about a £50,000, £60,000 property or a £1.3 million property, you can see, maybe not today, but you can see one day how it's going to make you millions. And the current project that I'm working on is an office complex with 5 15,000 square foot offices with a purchase price at 3.2 million and a rent roll in excess of 400,000 a year that I believe I can push north of £500,000 a year. Now you do not want to be doing that kind of stuff without understanding OpCo, PropCo, taxes, capital allowances and everything else. But just by watching, and well done for watching this video, and I hope you've made it to the end, because I realise some of you are going to have a very sore head by now. But just by making it to the end of this video, you've taken your first and most important step. You've got an appreciation of what's possible. And I promise you, it all starts, everything starts with OpCo, PropCo. You've been wonderful. I've been Paul. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye-bye for now. If you've liked it, please literally like it. Subscribe to the channel. Get your friends to do the same. You've been wonderful. I've been Paul. See you next time. Bye-bye.